Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video we are going to be doing a comparison between the Glock 43x and the Canik MC9 Prime. Both of these guns were designed specifically for the concealed carry market, but there are some differences and some similarities on each of these that you need to know about, and we're going to talk about some of those in the video. Before we get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would like and share the video, leave me a comment down below, subscribe to my channel, and let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to look at is the Glock 43x. This gun came out several years ago, and it was shortly after they had originally released the Glock 43, which featured a shorter grip, but people like me with large hands, that was just something that I did not have any interest in until they came out with the 43x. Now, when they first released the 43x, it was a two-tone finish. It had basically a silver slide and a black frame, and more people than, I guess you could say, than they expected wanted them to release this with the all black frame. I had looked at the 43x myself several times in the original two-tone, but I just could not bring myself to buy it. And once they finally came out with the Glock 43x in the all black, that was when I grabbed it. And this is a gun that is known with the Glock reliability. Mine is the original. I know that they have the newer one that has the MOS version. Mine does not. The newer one also has the rail as well, and a few other features. Now, I do have the XS 3-dot tritium sights on mine. That is a change that I made, and this is a gun that is specifically designed for concealed carry. In fact, both of these are, and this is one that I have carried for many years as a concealed carry firearm. Now, when we look to Canik, we're seeing a gun. The company is not as well known as Glock, but it has a good reputation and it is growing in popularity. There's a lot of features on this as far as how it looks. The overall look of this gun is just amazing. And again, this gun was designed specifically for the concealed carry market. This is, I guess you could say, the second generation of the MC9. The Canik MC9 originally did not have the compensator or some of the slide cuts that is on this current version, on the Prime Medi version. It also did not have the same aggressive stippling. One thing Caniks are known for is their trigger. They have some of the best out of the box triggers on the market, and just to show it to you guys, you've got a little bit of take up till you get to the wall right about there. And then once you get to that wall, it's a very easy press until it breaks that shot. And once you have broken that shot, the reset is just as nice. You just barely have to move that trigger. Right there is all the reset is, and you're ready to go again. You can see, I believe it is about a 4.5 to 5 pound trigger on average, according to Canik's website. You compare that with the Glock. The Glock 43x, again, is one that is known as a very reliable gun, but it does have that typical Glock trigger. You do get that sponginess until you get to that wall right about there, and then you continually build the pressure until the shot breaks. And once that shot breaks and that action cycles, the reset is going to be approximately right there. You do have to go a little further with the Glock compared to what the Canik is on the trigger, and the trigger out of the box on these new is going to be a little bit heavier. Just over 5 pounds is what they claim, but I can tell you that from personal experience with my gun, with this gun here, they will loosen up over time. As you get that round count through this gun, it is going to loosen up some more, and I assume that it's going to be the same with the Canik Meta Prime. Again, both of these guns have features that we don't typically see on smaller guns, but it's a growing trend. Now, of course, mine does not have the MOS, as I mentioned earlier, but the Caniks do. The newer 43Xs do have the MOS option, and they also have the railed option. And this, of course, factory does come with a rail as well as the MOS. You also get a little better sight on the Canik out of the box than what you do the Glocks. Again, this one came with those white U-dot sights originally, but I quickly replaced these with a set of excess sights. Go over, use my code, and save yourself a bit off of their website. Can't tell you where that is, but I'm sure you guys can find that out. We're going to do a quick size comparison between these two handguns. I'm just going to overlay the Glock 43x with the Canik MC9 Prime, just to show you some of the differences in size, because I know that that is something that most of you all are going to want to know, especially if you are considering one of these for concealed carry. You can see as far as the overall thickness, the overall height, and the length, they are very similar when it comes to the thickness. I'll put the specs down in the description of this video, that way you guys can go down there and see exactly what the differences between these are if you are one of the numbers guys. You can see here, as far as the thickness, they are very close to being the same. The length is a little bit different. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my thumb back here on the back of the slides to show you the difference in the length. You do see the compensator does add a little bit to the length of the Canik Meta Prime, depending on how much. You know, that's less than an inch, probably about half of an inch or so. Again, goes down to the description and you can see the specific specs on that. The length of the grip, there is a little bit more length in that grip compared to the 43x, and only a very minute difference in the thickness. That is basically the size difference on it. Now, something else that you're going to know is the texturing. Okay, the Glock has the typical Glock Gen 5 texturing. You can see all the way around the gun. Some people do not believe that it is aggressive enough. Others believe that it is just right. That's a personal opinion, so let me know yours down below. The Canik MC9 Prime, you have very aggressive checkering that goes all the way up to just under the slide stop. You do get a little bit of cut for your thumb. That is part of the ergos as far as how this gun feels in your hands. The stippling that is on it is much more aggressive on the back strap. That is something that you will notice when you put this gun in your hand, between the front strap and the back strap. When you compare that to the texturing on the sides, there is a noticeable difference. You also get a mag well on the Canik MC9 Prime. I know that there are aftermarket magazine magwells that you can get for the Glock 43x. That is something that you can add, but with the Canik MC9 Prime, it does come with one right out of the box. The biggest difference between these two guns is going to be magazine capacity. The standard Glock 43x capacity is going to be 10 rounds. Within the Canik MC9 Prime, the standard capacity is 17 rounds. The MC9 will work with the full-size Canik magazines. However, the MC9 magazines will not work in most of the full-sized Caniks. You know, that's something that you want to be aware of as well. I do know that you can get aftermarket magazines for your Glock 43x that do have a higher capacity. I have got a couple of videos where I talk about those on my channel. I'm just not a fan of them due to the amount of failures that I have had when I have tried them. Personal opinion, guys, I like the Glock magazines compared to the aftermarket magazines. These have been shown to be much more reliable in my opinion. But that is one of the biggest differences, is the magazine capacity. The difference in the ergonomics, we have already mentioned the differences in the stippling. You do not get any type of a cutout on the Glock 43x. Also, the Glock does have that angle that some people just do not like. Me, I do not mind it. It feels good in my hands. It works for me very well. You do not get as much of an undercut behind that trigger as what you do on like the Canik MC9 Prime. You do get much more of an undercut. The grip on it does feel good in the hands. It does not have as much of an angle as what Glock pistols typically have, but that was done with a specific reason. If you guys know what that reason is, let me know down in the comments below. The Canik MC9 does feel very good in the hands. There's also the slide cuts. You know, that is something that you need to consider as well. The way that that slide is cut, as far as how it looks, it really looks very well. There's a lot of nice aesthetics in the Canik MC9 Prime, and Glock is typical Glock. It's just a squared off Glock. Some people love them, some people hate them. Me, I am a fan of Glock. I'm a fan of Canik as well. I like both. That's why I own both of them. Another big difference between these two guns is aftermarket support. There is a ton of aftermarket support for the Glock, regardless of series. There's all kinds of companies out there making a wide variety of accessories and things like that for the Glock, for parts, components, and so on. Canik, it has not necessarily gotten to that level outside of what comes on the Canik firearms. Holsters, it's going to be the same way. You're getting more companies out there that are starting to make holsters for the Canik, and there are already a ton of companies out there that make holsters for the Glocks. I'll put some down in the comments below, down in the description below. The Canik MC9 Prime does have that compensator, but in my opinion, when you're talking about recoil, I've not noticed a big difference in the recoil between how this gun feels and how the 43x feels. In my hands, shooting 9mm, they feel about the same. I do believe that the Canik stippling is much better than what it is on the 43x. It does help you to get a good grip on that firearm, but it is not impossible to get a good grip on the 43x as well. For me, I have no problem shooting either one of these guns, but I will admit that the ergos do feel much better on the MC9 Prime. Beyond just the stippling on the gun, the serrations that are on the slide for the MC9 are much easier to grip. When you grab a hold of that slide, you know that you have a good grip on it. I mean, it bites into your skin and it helps you to manipulate that slide. The 43x, while there is some front slide serrations, they're not as aggressive as what they are on the Canik Meta Prime, but they are still very usable. If you do not hit that just right, and as far as grabbing that stippling, or as far as grabbing those slide cuts, I have in the past, if my hands have been slick or something, not hit those, and my hand would slide a little bit. So that is something that I have had happen personally. But again, if you got a good grip on it, there's no problem to manipulate that slide. Again, it's all about the technique, but I'll have to say I do like the aggressiveness of the way that the slide cuts feel on the MC9 Prime. The slide stop on the 43x is only on one side. That is something that with the Glock Gen 5, like the Glock Gen 5, the Glock 19 Gen 5, you do have it on both sides. However, the 43x does not. I'm not sure if some of the newer releases of the 43x have that added feature or not. You guys let me know down below in the comments. However, the Canik MC9 Prime does have, on both sides, it does have that slide stop release. The magazine release on both of these guns are reversible for you lefties out there. You can kind of see how it looks on the Meta MC9 Prime compared to the 43x. Now, I am one that I am not a fan of oversized magazine releases. There is just too much evidence out there where people under stress when they're gripping their firearms, they have ended up hitting that magazine release and have dropped that magazine, and the only thing that they have then is a single shot pistol. And for a concealed carry firearm, that is not a good thing, a good situation to be in. I do not think that this one is too large. I believe that it is about right for what you get with this gun, and you need to make sure that you have that proper grip to where you do not inadvertently hit a magazine release on either one of your concealed carry firearms. For me, on both of these guns, I do not have any issues. I'm able to manipulate both of these guns without inadvertently hitting that magazine release. The concealability for both of these guns is very good. Again, there's not much size difference in them, just a slight difference difference in the length, the overall length of these two guns. You can see it again here as we talked about earlier. So both are very concealable with a good holster. I've not had any issues, you know, with either one concealing them. This is one that I have to say I've carried much more than I have the Canik MC9 Prime. I'm still trying to find the holster that I want for this gun. Now, if you'd watched my other video as far as like my unboxing, the holster that comes with this gun, you know, you do get a nice, I guess you could say a nice case, as well as some of the other accessories that Canik is known for. But that holster that they send with this gun is not very good in my opinion. Now, but that is something I'll have to say, because with the Glock 43x, you do not get a holster, okay? You get just the gun. You do not get any kind of a holster or anything like that. You do get cleaning rods with both of these guns, but again, you don't get a holster for this. But again, that's where the aftermarket support comes into play, and there is much more aftermarket support with the Glock 43x. However, there are more companies that are starting to make holsters for the Caniks, and again, a good holster is an investment. You need to invest in a good holster for your concealed carry firearm. When we're talking about accuracy for these guns, they are both very accurate, okay? These are a very good, very accurate gun, but you need to make sure that you're following the fundamentals, making sure that you have that proper sight picture, and making sure that you are pressing that trigger without upsetting that sight picture. You know, that is something that I'll have to say with the trigger on the Canik MC9 Prime, with that great trigger that you do get on this gun, it is very easy to make accurate shots with it. However, any gun that has a decent trigger, you should be able to make an accurate shot with. I do not have any issues with my 43x, even though the trigger on it, my particular gun, like I mentioned earlier, it has loosened up a bit. I am still very able to make accurate shots, you know, with this gun. Again, it's all about your technique, about making sure that you do what you need to do to keep that proper sight picture and to break that shot right when it is lined up perfectly. You know, don't jerk that trigger, having that proper trigger control. But again, that better trigger on the Canik is something that can help with your accuracy. But again, I don't have any issues with the 43x. Guys, that is a quick comparison between the Canik MC9 Prime and the Glock 43x. Again, both of these guns are specifically targeting the concealed carry market. There's a lot of features of both. There are a lot of advantages and disadvantages to either one, just depending on what your preferences are. Let me know which one of these you prefer down in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you. Let me know why. You know, why would you prefer one over the other? I'd like to know your thoughts down below. Guys, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Again, be sure to like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel. Check out all the links down below. Become a channel member. Help out what we do here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.